Karma really is a isn't it, CM Punk? At SummerSlam 2025, the ruse of the century was pulled off by the villainous and always seeking an opportunity, Seth Rollins, who of course was feigning an injury and took advantage of his longtime rival, the despised in his eyes CM Punk, who is in a vulnerable state after capturing the World Heavyweight Championship in the main event from the Ring General in an outstanding match. It wasn't so much about the idea of being cashed in on itself. It was something that if you look for Punk's past, you'll see in the summer of Punk 2011, a high spot in his career. You'll know he's no hypocrite about it. He understands it's a part of the game. That year, Alberto Del Rio cashed in on Punk at SummerSlam, and that wasn't the issue for Punk in and of itself. It was how it happened. Yeah, how it happened, with Kevin Nash appearing to do somebody else's bidding for him, which led to the cash-in. Even now in 2025, you'll probably won't hear CM Punk complaining about being cashed in on. It's a part of what happens, and he's a guy that understands for every action, there is a reaction. So dive in with us as we look possibly at the biggest moments of karma that have hit CM Punk in his wrestling career. This is Sportskeeda Wrestling. I'm Kevin Kellum from Chicago, Illinois. No, that doesn't mean I know CM Punk, but let us know what you think of CM Punk right now in 2025. What is your favorite CM Punk match? Get down there in the comment. Tell us your best one, maybe one we're not even thinking of. And if you haven't done so, share the link to this video with your wrestling buddies, especially the ones that love themselves some CM Punk. Subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling and our march towards 200,000 subscribers. For those who don't know, especially our younger Gen Z fans who are probably maybe a little bit too young to process all of this and watch CM Punk during his first run in WWE, he was a two-time Money in the Bank winner. Yes, that briefcase you win that you can cash in anywhere, anytime, for a world title shot, maybe even in the most opportunistic circumstances. While Seth Rollins had a whopping 11 years between his Money in the Bank wins, CM Punk was and still is the only man in WWE history to win the precious briefcase back-to-back in WrestleMania Money in the Bank matches. Not only that, he successfully cashed in both times. The first year, he took advantage of a proned and power-bombed by Batista Edge, the biggest bad guy in WWE at the time, to capture the Money in the Bank briefcase into an opportunity that made him a World Heavyweight Champion. The next year, though, it was a completely different circumstance. By this stretch, Jeff Hardy had risen to becoming one of the premier main event talents, a guy that a lot of people were cheering for. And it's hard to describe how popular he was as a single star at this time. 2008, 2009, Jeff Hardy was freaking massive for all the mall goth kids coming to the wrestling shows. And in Extreme Rules 2009, Jeff Hardy overcame one of his biggest rivals, Edge, and captured the World Heavyweight title, only to have the moment completely stripped away from him by CM Punk, who took advantage of it. But it wasn't just about the cash-in. The way Punk fouled up in his rivalry turned into one of the biggest bad guy turns we had seen in wrestling at the time. This launched 2009 CM Punk into unbearable levels. He was booed everywhere, virtue signaling every single crowd, claiming because he was straight edge and drug-free and alcohol-free and not an addict like Jeff Hardy, who they beloved, he was better than the demon they were cheering. In his story, he was the hero, and Jeff Hardy was the villain. But obviously, CM Punk was the villain. So despite CM Punk's straight edge message being very overbearing and not really being that bad in and of itself, it was the way he presented it and the way he delivered it as a performer. It's truly one of the most underrated stages of his career. He was insufferable, getting the heat you need to get. Remember, you're not supposed to like the bad guy when they're the bad guy. Stop doing the, I like the cool heels thing. Punk was a cool heel, but you knew when you were supposed to boo him. And it was a testament to how good he was in his role. For those who watched Game of Thrones, do you remember how freaking awful Joffrey Baratheon was? This guy was Baratheon. He was Joffreyan all over WWE. That came out wrong. He was the pinnacle of what it was to be a bad guy in pro wrestling, so much so that even the actor Jack Gleason would get abused in real life outside of his character. That's how much Joffrey was a jerk. That's how much CM Punk was a jerk. Yeah, he was the Joffrey of WWE. Punk was that guy, standing across Jeff Hardy as a yin and yang type of great story. It was two polar opposite personalities, but that opposition, that chemistry, that natural friction created a lot of sparks. Punk would likely have never been maybe as big of a star if he didn't have the antagonist who drove him to the heights he did with Jeff Hardy. This is one of Jeff Hardy's best feuds, by the way, as a singles superstar. And this was maybe the biggest point of contention, that things got so bad that Jeff Hardy was eventually made to leave WWE for other issues. And CM Punk was the man who kicked him out and a loser leaves town WWE match. That's right, Punk may have been the heel, but he benefited from the circumstances and ran with the heat from it. Punk would eventually lose the World Heavyweight title, though, to The Undertaker soon after, and he was still very much the preachy, holier-than-thou, straight-edge society leading character. It took him a while before becoming the voice of the voiceless, the true rebel against the corporate infrastructure who broke through the fourth wall, CM Punk of 2011. But we can't but help feel that SummerSlam 2025 in the present is a big example of karma. Yeah, some things come back to bite you on the, Ruthless, neck-breaking types succeed in the real world. It may have had some effect on you and you question about it. Maybe someone who was a jerk to you, who was immoral, who undercut you or some others along the way. Stomping on others to move forward with brute force is rewarded rather than punished in the short run. In wrestling, there's no exception either. If anything, wrestling is a perfect example of how ruthlessness can get you ahead. Yeah, we're not talking about the ruthless aggression era, but the entire idea of it. If you think some of the greats in the industry, you includedly think of the late, great Hulk Hogan. An element of ruthlessness was almost necessary and evil in his practice to become as successful as he would be, and that may be the case for a lot of pro wrestling greats. They have to sometimes take advantage of circumstances to benefit themselves, whether in character or out. The examples we'll lay out, though, are really just based on CM Punk's character, purely in character karma, and maybe just a great example of, the idea of that issue coming up. Sometimes you're gonna pay for it. Yes, CM Punk had some issues with WWE over 11 years ago. Yes, he had a very successful, comfortable life to some degree outside of WWE. It's about what happened when he returned to WWE in 2023, in the karma that we'll look to ensure here. It was completely different for CM Punk when he returned to the company in 2023 in Chicago in a massive reaction, one of the loudest pops I've ever heard live at Survivor Series 2023. Instead of a fiery, frustrated guy we saw in 2011 in WWE, in 2023 we saw a more measured, relaxed, wise, mature CM Punk. One who had a level of understanding that was expressed, even though some would say, oh, I don't believe it. Whatever it was, he came back to WWE with a much cooler head after a not-so-great exit of AEW. And that was a prerequisite to his return and how he reconnected, really, with Triple H. It wasn't about the money. The money was going to be there. It was simply one clear sentiment from Triple H. If CM Punk was the same person he was a decade ago, there's no point in him and WWE really trying to do business together again. Thankfully, CM Punk was a different person, and you can see it in the way he interacts with younger wrestlers, younger talent, and really how you see him perform on camera. He's a smarter, wiser performer, and, time makes you change. Is anyone the same person they were 10 years ago? That's not even human to look at any other human being that way. And there's an even greater role for him, the role of a backstage veteran who helps younger talent. It is so evident in CM Punk that is something he really cherishes, something he even tried to do in AEW, but we've made videos about why that didn't work out. Rather than perpetuating the toxic locker room culture that he was a part of in the 2000s, guys like CM Punk are making sure to do the exact opposite, to evolve the business in a progressive way. They're now guiding young talent in NXT's ranks to go about it a different, healthier way, and still provide that old school, play it the right way professionalism in professional wrestling. And that seems to be CM Punk's expressed outlook. And WWE has given him a role to play that, hopefully, down the line. And that has no reason on his side to complain whatsoever. His matches against young, new talent he didn't face before, in Drew McIntyre, Sami Zayn, revived feuds with John Cena and Seth Rollins, have been unforgettable matches, special moments. He got to make them with them. He's had some of the best stuff that WWE's done on TV this year. Some of you are screaming at us, but it's true. And maybe the best match of his return to WWE since 2023 was with Gunther at SummerSlam. Now, let's get to the karma, though. There's going to be payback. CM Punk, like all of us, probably believes in karma to some extent. He thinks luck is for losers, and he was probably hoping that it wouldn't come in the form that it did. The biggest, most annoying Seth Rollins coming out, throwing the crutches down, and making it clear that he was faking this knee injury the entire time. He also probably didn't expect Seth Rollins to pull this ruse, as they're already calling it, which was masterfully always done. That moment when he dropped those crutches, you just, oh boy, people knew, oh, he's going to walk out, he's going to pose, and then, wow, yeah, when he turned around, I knew something was up. It's his own weird, twisted way that this cash-in on CM Punk felt like the perfect karma for what happened 16 years ago to Jeff Hardy. Maybe the karma that happened to Seth Rollins years ago at the hands of CM Punk. One of the biggest matches of the year was WWE's Monday Night Raw debut on Netflix, where CM Punk beat Seth Rollins clean in the middle of the ring. Like we said before, it's hard to mention just how much CM Punk was hated by the casual fans. The diehards loved him. They were still riding with him from Ring of Honor. But I'm saying the kids showed up to boo Punk and cheer Jeff Hardy with those weird, wristbandy kind of hosiery things on their arms. Yeah, like we said before, it's hard not to mention the dynamic between them. So even CM Punk is nowhere near the same man he was in 2009. This is a perfect example of how karma, as slow as it is, moves up and catches up to you at some point. Rollins' karma came, and it came at the most opportune time for him, and CM Punk was the victim of it. As bizarre as it sounds, the 16-year-old karma from Jeff Hardy, maybe that played out here. Maybe the year-long karma. How long has this karma been going on? It's an invisible force. It invariably catches up with all of our beloved wrestlers and maybe even the most despised ones, and we cheer for it to happen. There's no timeline. That's why many believe that karma doesn't exist for the ruthless. Yeah, who only get rewarded for stepping over everyone. But even these people, the karma they have faces them in its own shape and form, often unrecognizable to the human eye. It reminds us of a segment that Edge, oh yes, the ever opportunistic Edge, was with Becky Lynch over 7 years ago. In the aftermath of Becky having turned into a villain, Edge was long retired by that point. He has a better trophy cabinet in professional wrestling than 99% of the people who've ever entered the ring. But even he couldn't help but admit that because of his ruthless ways, he found himself starting to maybe have a sense of different feelings looking at the emptiness within, besides all of the trophies he won along the way. Was it worth it for how he feels now on the other side of it? Now that CM Punk has received his karma, the question remains how he bounces back from it and acts forward. Yes, the pursuit of revenge on Rollins is certainly on, and we saw it most recently on Monday Night Raw right after SummerSlam. Punk really made Drew McIntyre and their long grudging feud that was drawn out over most of 2024 feel the revenge. And Punk was the one who conquered at the end of it inside Hell in a Cell. The issue with Rollins goes back, though, years. So what extremes is Punk going to go to? Costing Rollins his world title is just the tip of the revenge iceberg that could come crashing down on Rollins and his crew. Heyman, yeah, you know you were involved in this entire thing along the way. You better watch your bald head as well. And yes, by that same logic, it very much means Seth Rollins is bound to face his own karma in a very, very big way. Maybe we'll see it. Maybe we won't see it in the way we expect. His karma is coming, whether it's going to be swift and brutal or long, drawn out, and truly, inevitably, he will pay in some way. CM Punk is not going to let this one ride. Now, where does CM Punk get that revenge? How severe it is? Let us know what you think. What did you think of the incredible finish of the main event of SummerSlam Night 1? Did you think it was one of the best Money in the Bank cash-ins of all time? Is karma coming for Seth Rollins? Or is CM Punk and LA Knight, who's involved in this whole thing, he hopped in the mix here on Monday Night Raw? How is it going to play out for them? Where do you see this entire feud going in the months ahead? Let us know in the comments below. Yeah, let us know how you're feeling. Do you like these videos? Share the link. Pass it on to your wrestling buddies. Subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling for more videos just like this.